Melanin, the engine of the universe. You may be wondering, what is melanin? Well, melanin is the pigment in your skin or in your eyes or in your hair that would be black or brown. So, eumelanin or true melanin is black or brown. Now, let's take this black or brown that we have as eumelanin and look at it from the terms of basic physics that we may have learned in kindergarten or preschool. In that basic kindergarten physics, you may have been taught that black is not technically a color. It's not a color because black absorbs all light or all energy or all colors. And you may have been taught that white is not technically a color because white reflects or rejects or repels all light or all energy or all colors. Now, as you got older, you may have taken physics in middle school or in high school or in college, and you would have been taught there the first law of thermodynamics, which is also known as the law of conservation of energy. In that law, you would have been told that energy can neither be created or destroyed, only transformed. So let me say that again. In the first law of thermodynamics, energy can neither be created or destroyed, only transformed. Now, I'm not a physicist. I have a law degree. So I look at things from a law angle and not as much from a physics or chemistry or scientific angle. So law is dealing with words, and I'm a very verbal, left-brained person. I thought the words are saying that energy can neither be created or destroyed, only transformed. So I'm wondering, how can you transform energy without being able to absorb it? Just wondering. I'm not a scientist. Somebody can tell me that, but I can't figure it out from a word standpoint, from the left brain standpoint, how you can transform something that you don't possess, you don't absorb. So I have come to the conclusion that the secret to the law of thermodynamics is melanin, or the secret is black, because black can absorb all light, all energy, and all colors. So let's look at the first law of thermodynamics from a human perspective, from a combination of left brain and right brain perspective. Right brain people tend to be very abstract oriented. They can think in terms of mathematics a lot easier than they can think in terms of words. So I'm going to put this in a mathematical formula for those people. I'm borrowing this from the physicists because I'm not a mathematician. But the physicists say that the change in internal energy of a system is equal to the heat added to the system minus the work done by the system. Well, mathematically, they'll use the symbol of a triangle for change and the symbol of U for system, and they'll say the change in the system is equal to heat. I'm using H for heat minus W, which is for work. So the change in U, and U can be a system, equals heat minus work. That's the conservation of energy, or the first law of thermodynamics. Now you'll see in some chemistry books, they'll write that same law as the change in the system, triangle U, equals heat plus work, where the change is heat that's working on a system. Well, the Anita Bell way of interpreting this mathematics in my left brain is that the change in you, the change in me, the change in us, we are a system, is that whenever the heat is negative, then we want to make there be less heat and more light. So in order to make it more light or more positive, then we've got to do more work. On the other hand, when the light is already positive, such as in education, when I'm teaching a class, let's say I'm teaching physics, that's ironic, then in order for students to learn to absorb that light, that heat, that energy, they're going to have to do some work. So you have true melanin. In order to be an engine for positive change in a system called the universe, you're going to have to do some work. Now, for Black folks, are we hot enough yet? Blacks can absorb a lot of heat, a lot of light, a lot of energy, and there's plenty of heat that's on us. Today is December 29th. Another Black woman was accidentally killed by police on Saturday, December 26th. She was a 55-year-old grandmother in Chicago. Her name was Betty Jones. Also killed at the same time with her was Quintonio LeGrier, and he was age 19. Now, I'm saying this accident that keeps happening to us made Betty Jones into a blood sacrifice on the first day of Kwanzaa. That blood sacrifice thing that happens when people worship Baphomet or Lucifer, we'll talk about that on another slide in another time. But right now, we have to actually say, how hot do we need it to get before this system starts doing work to implement positive change? We are the engine. Let's do the work. Now, there's a self-determination that goes along with mental health. Mental health means that Black absorbs all energy, but that includes negative energy. If you want to call it negative light or heat, we absorb all of that. Melanin is in our brain. It's in the pineal gland in our brain. And that pineal gland is known as the third eye. And the third eye is the spiritual center, but quite honestly, the pineal gland also is the body clock, so that it regulates sleeping and waking. It also regulates women's body clocks as far as, and men too, as far as monthly periods and so forth. You're going to have melanin between your ears or in your ears also, because melanin and being able to absorb sound waves is also very important to hearing. Now, one of the things that happens in our physical environment, many communities have fluoridated water, and we're told that fluoride is natural, and yet the fluoride that's being added to our water is an industrial byproduct. And so that's not natural, it's very unnatural, and that fluoride is weakening the melanin in our pineal gland. It's a kind of chemical type of adverse relationship. And when that happens, it makes individuals susceptible to mental illness. I'll say that again. Fluoride working against the melanin in the pineal gland makes individuals susceptible to mental illness. Now, there can also be certain music or rhythms or other things that disrupts brain waves and the filters in brain waves, and that's why I tell people to please be careful about cell phones and other electronics. You're going to have to just go ahead and turn them off. Give yourself some electronics-free time zones. These electronics, of course, are used for surveillance, but they're also used to subliminally transmit self-destructive and other destructive messages. So our enemies have learned how to enslave us using these electronic devices. But it's a type of voluntary slavery where all you have to do to free yourself is say, I'm going to take an hour or take a day or take a week or a month and just turn the thing off. And for children especially, they can take that time and just go play. Play outside, pick up a ball, play a game, play cards, but play. And that will give yourself a break from the electronics. Now, here is some forbidden knowledge. And I have to say that melanin is our weapon. Knowledge is power. When used against you, it is a weapon. And how you use your knowledge can also be a weapon for self-defense. Now, this is going to be for Black people. whites have less melanin. So the fluoride that's in the water is actually hurting them more than it's hurting black people. It ages them faster than it ages black people. So we have to take that to our advantage. Ideally, the water would stop having fluoride in it, and that's going to benefit everybody. But the whites that suffer the most are the ones with the least amount of melanin. So they don't have it in their eyes, they don't have it in their hair, and I'm talking about eumelanin. They have melanin, they have some kind of color. So they got red hair, they got blue eyes, they got blonde hair, they got green eyes. These are the people that have the least amount of eumelanin, and the amount of eumelanin that they have is being diminished by the fluoride, and that is hurting them. They call themselves the Aryans. Sometimes they worship a goat, and that goat is Baphomet, so I call them the goats. But anyway, these are the people that really are being hurt by having less melanin, and their third eye is blind. Now, melatonin is a mash word or portmanteau for melanin and serotonin. Melanin and serotonin are neurotransmitters, and the operative word of neurotransmitter is the transmitter portion of that word. Melanin is a neurotransmitter because it regulates sleep and the body clock, and serotonin is the neurotransmitter most often associated with happiness. Now, the white people's intention of putting fluoride in the water was to inhibit melanin, to make themselves and everybody else whiter, and what they thought that would mean is that they'd be whiter and they'd be happier because they thought we'd inhibit or make less the melanin, and they thought that would increase or make more the serotonin. That isn't necessarily true. That's a very oversimplistic kind of chemical analysis. Instead, what they wind up being, and what everybody winds up having, is sleep deprivation. When you have sleep deprivation, you're not able to focus and you're not quite mentally balanced. So, what white people have, because they have less melanin and they have a whole lot of trouble getting to sleep, then when they finally do get to sleep, they have terrifying nightmares. And I say that dreams, including bad dreams, are traveling, like night traveling to other dimensions. They're afraid to go to sleep because they have these terrifying nightmares, and so their curse becomes that they get trapped or imprisoned by these nightmares. That is how melanin is a weapon against them. They can always heal that, and we're going to talk about how. But for those people who do not want to repent and be healed, then this becomes their curse. Abracadabra. It's a word associated with magic, but it's not actually magic. It's Hebrew or Aramaic. It's a word, and I'm into words because I'm left-brained. It's a word that means I shall have what I say. It's a word associated with blessing or cursing. Some people means, oh, you're casting spells. No, I don't cast spells. That's against the Torah. I'm a black Jew or a black Israelite or an Israelite, because it doesn't make sense to say black and Israelite because the Israelites are black. So whatever you want to call it, I can say the Hebrew abracadabra, I shall have what I say. So that means when white people are cursing my people, they are killing my people, they are putting drugs in the community, in black segregated neighborhoods, in order to incarcerate or enslave with drug addiction, or enslave by making people so scared to go out of their house that they have to put bars on their windows and doors and burglar alarms, and be afraid when they go in and out of their cars that they have to put bars on their cars, making us terrorized in our own neighborhoods by the drugs that they import into our neighborhoods. All of these curses that were placed upon us by these people, I have the ability from God to curse those who curse me and bless those that bless me. So if you're cursing me, I can say to these white people, instead of telling them to go to hell, just tell them to go to sleep. Because I know when they go to sleep, they are going to hell. Now, I also say this because there's a lot of youth getting mad. Black Lives Matter, and we keep seeing our blood being made into blood sacrifices to these goats who seem to be sacrificing our blood to their god Lucifer or Baphomet or whatever they call themselves doing. I'm praying. Instead of getting mad and rioting, I'm praying for God's judgment on our enemies. Now, through our prayers, I call it the self-determination of melanin, that our prayers now transmit like an engine to the universe. That's what we mean by from my lips to God's ears. Well, my lips don't even have to say it. From my thoughts to God's ears. This is especially true at night. That's where you have the prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul will keep. At night, when your melanin is at its peak, if you're on the usual diurnal rhythm of going to sleep at night and being awake during the day, if you make this prayer at night before you go to sleep, watch the miracle happen through the melanin while you're sleeping and during the next day. Now, of course, you're going to say, well, that means I can't do it in the daytime. Yes, you can pray during the daylight because it's always night somewhere. So go ahead and make this prayer. People can go without food. They can go without water. They can go without either of those things a whole lot longer than they can go without sleep. So when our enemies finally go to sleep, as they must at some point, pray that they be captured and live in their nightmares. Now, this is how we're going to fight white Ku Klux Klan killers. We're going to do it telepathically through our prayers, not with our hands. Because if these killers are police officers, I'm not going to get into a war with a police officer. First of all, I'm going to be 55 years old. I'm not fighting anybody at my age. But even if I was 30 years younger, I wouldn't do it. I don't recommend doing it. I believe if we have the power through our melanin to be telepathic, then things are going to start moving because I'm going to have what I say. Our prayers go through the melanin of our third eye and transmit to the melanin in the universe. And then you're going to see the change in the system because of the result of melanin working on the system, heat working on the system. Now, every curse must have a means of escape. Just like I just don't believe that you're going to curse somebody, it's perpetual and you don't give them a way out. So every curse must have a means of escape. And that's called reparations. So that's why I am the president of the Reparations Labor Union. You have to give white people a means of escaping their curse. They can choose not to do it, but you gotta give them that. That's just karma. So the Reparations Labor Union has calculated that as of 2015, Black Lives Matters means that the reparations due to each African American is $6 billion each. Notice that's a billion with a B. $6 billion each. In another slide, I go through where that calculation was derived. Now, one way to stop the police from accidentally exterminating and what we call extrajudicially summarily killing our people is to let them know that each one of these accidents costs $6 billion per Black martyr. Now, somebody's going to say, what are reparations? Well, the root word of reparations is to repair. If you're not familiar with the actual legal term, or historical term, you may be aware of the history of the 40 acres and a mule that was promised by U.S. Union General William Tecumseh Sherman in Special Field Order 15 on January 16, 1865 to freed slaves. He said, all right, we're freeing the slaves and we're going to give each slave 40 acres and a mule from the land that was confiscated from whites during the Civil War. Now, Sherman's field order was rescinded or canceled or revoked by President Andrew Johnson when he succeeded or took over for Abraham Lincoln after President Lincoln was assassinated. And I said, So Johnson canceled that field order, which was going to cost white slave masters a whole lot of money. Instead of giving reparations to the freed slaves, then reparations went to the slave masters who lost the ability to work their slaves for free. Did that have anything to do with Lincoln getting assassinated? So, 150 years later, blacks still haven't received reparations. Mind you, it's a debt owed, and there's interest accruing for 150 years. And we're just saying now is a good time to ask President Obama to issue reparations by an executive order, much like President Lincoln did. So in June of 2015, a letter was sent to President Barack Obama asking him to do just that. Now, I can just imagine Barack Obama is sitting there saying, when Lincoln was going to give reparations, he got assassinated. And you want me to do something that got him killed? So there might be some resistance or repelling or rejecting of this light. We have to turn it into a petition. So instead of a letter from one person, now we turned that letter that was sent in June of 2015 into a petition. And that petition is available on reparationslaborunion.org/EO petition. The White House has said that any petition that gets at least 100,000 signatures will be addressed by the White House. The letter that was sent in June of 2015 has yet to be addressed by the president. So we want to sort of push the issue by signing that letter with not just one signature, but 100,000 more, at least 100,000 more. And our goal for getting these 100,000 signatures is March 1st, 2016. Here's what I want to see. Since white people have now been cursed by self-determination of our melanin, then they can reverse that curse by signing this petition. Now, this petition is asking President Obama to enact reparations by an executive order, and then also what we can do is demand that his successor presidents continue the executive order until Congress passes John Conyers' H.R. 40 and any other corresponding legislation. What does that mean? Obama is going to leave office on January 20th, 2017. Somebody is going to be president after him. When we have an executive order enacting reparations, we can then use that order to be the leverage to ask the next president to continue the executive order into his or her term of office. And I'm sure Hillary Clinton is hoping that the next president will be a her, and that she will be the her. So the call to action is sign the petition at reparationslaborunion.org/EO petition for executive order petition. You can even download the petition, print it up, and have others sign it. Our goal is to get a minimum of 100,000 signatures by March 1st of 2016. For those of you who have websites and you're also on social media, you can promote this petition through Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest and all of your other outlets. And finally, You can fundraise for the petition and for reparations by promoting our fundraiser, which is selling the book Revealing Mistaken Identities. You do that by becoming an Amazon associate or an Amazon affiliate. Just go on Amazon.com, look in their search engine about becoming an affiliate or an associate, and once you sign up for that, it's free. Then all you have to do is promote Revealing Mistaken Identities on your websites and social media. So, Revealing Mistaken Identities is a book that I wrote. It talks about the war on drugs that is really a war on Black people because the drugs were deliberately imported by the U.S. government, specifically the CIA, and deliberately distributed into America's segregated Black neighborhoods as a form of pharmaceutical slavery. We have various entities that wind up profiting from the prison industrial complex, and those entities, including the U.S. government, the Federal Reserve, various banks, and Wall Street, all of them are cursed. So, this is really going towards the heart of not just America's, but the world's national security. Because when you do something to a group of people, karma is coming back upon you. So the curse that these entities placed on African Americans and people of African descent by enslaving us and continuing that slavery through drugs and other means of modern slavery, then of course that curse is going to come back upon them because melanin is the engine of the universe. That heat that's placed on us is going to transform and come back to you, and you have no way of absorbing it. So you have to reverse that curse, and this is the way to do it, through reparations. So either reverse the curse or cursed be ye.